And welcome on in, everybody, from the Alkali Flats to the Dugway Proving Grounds. It's a show that should have been canceled, but still hasn't been yet. It's the SkyCast. I'm John Oglesby.
Jason Ashcraft.
Brad Wall.
And we are your sources for all things Big Sky Conference. We're happy to be with you today for another fun, action-packed show. Got a lot of good stuff coming up today, fellas. We've got information about all of our sports from last weekend. We've got, obviously, upcoming info, throw out some previews, including to this game's Root Sports Game of the Week for football. And on top of that, we got Basketball Media Day coming up, Jason, and we're going to talk about that a lot at the end.
And everything.
It's a fun-filled, action-packed show, as I already said, but it's good to say it again. So let's get going this week with what happened on the pitch.
Well, in soccer, it's really an interesting race. You got three teams, Eastern Washington, Idaho, and Sacramento State, all starting the conference season off with 2 wins. Eastern Washington, I know Brad, the Eastern Washington alum, is going to be very happy about this. Winners of 6 straight, longest winning streak in the conference right now, sitting atop the standing, tied atop the standings. These are teams that were picked middle of the pack. Here they are, first weekend, right out of the gate, 2-0. So this coming weekend is really going to be a chance for some teams to separate themselves. The soccer championship takes place first weekend in November, so there's not a lot of time for these teams to catch up after the second weekend.
Absolutely, and you and I will be there, so the race coming down the stretch, it's going to be a lot of fun at Big Sky Soccer. Remember, a bunch of those games you can watch this weekend on watchbigsky.com. Make sure to check out that weekend viewing guide on our website, bigskyconf.com.
Before we move on, we got to talk about the player of the week.
Yeah.
Both of our players of the week from Sacramento State. A great weekend for these 2 young ladies. Kayla Collins was our offensive player of the week, 2 goals and an assist, and Reagan Smithers was our defensive player of the week. This defender had a great week on defense, but also scored her first career goal, so congratulations to both of them.
Yeah, good weekend out for them. Brad, we'll turn to you. What happened for people wearing shoes this week?
What shoes are we
also known
talking about?
Also known as volleyball or cross country.
There's not a lot of barefoot sports.
I guess they'd have spikes in there.
Spikes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so for volleyball, we had Idaho State, Eastern Washington, Sacramento State all start 2-0. Eastern with really impressive sweeps over North Dakota and Northern Colorado. And Sacramento State, someone finally, I think we jinxed them. We said that no one's going to take them 5 sets. Well, Southern Utah takes Sac 5 sets. They fight them off, though. They win. And then they beat NAU. That was a really big matchup as well for them. And then Idaho State beating Montana State and Weber State. This was a kind of interesting matchup. North Dakota and Idaho, they go to 5 sets. North Dakota holds them off. All 3 times they've faced each other, they've gone to 5 sets. So you can always expect a good thriller with those 2. And Montana State beat Montana. This is kind of an interesting slump for Montana State, you'd say. 9-game home losing streak to Montana that they snapped in winning that game. So good for them. Yeah. And then player of the week this week, we had it's a repeat.
What?
Lauren Kissel for Sac State gets her 2nd straight nod. She was just, I don't know if there's a outside hitter that's on the money like Kissel is right now. She had 25 kills against Southern Utah, and then 18, I believe, against Northern Arizona, and she's hitting over 400. She's just efficient, and it's been fun seeing what she can do this season for the Hornets.
Absolutely. So we'll turn to me now, the other sport with people who wear spiked shoes, golf. Congrats out to Sacramento State's Aaron Beverly, who wins this week's Big Sky Men's Golfer of the Week. Did very well in the tournament up in Pullman, Washington, so big congrats out to him. Also congrats to Northern Colorado's Amanda Myers. She does very well, winning the Big Sky Women's Golfer of the Week. We only got a few weeks left. We're starting, even though it's been a really warm fall to this point, temperatures expected to be changing across the Intermountain West, so only a few weeks left to golf, and then we'll be on a hiatus till the spring, so that'll be kind of sad, but...
I've got to hit the links. I'm running out of time.
Yeah, and I'm most concerned about our golf schedule,
exactly.
And definitely is going to be impacted a lot here pretty soon. And then, Brad, what do we have happen this week in cross country?
Yeah, so we had 4 different teams competed, some really prestigious meets. most notably Southern Utah men and Weber State women. Southern Utah second at the Roy Griek Invitational in Minnesota. Really big meet, lots of ranked teams there. And the Weber State women fourth. Hayden Hawks, our athlete of the week. Haley Wetton, our athlete of the week. They were both 10th at that event. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
That's a really impressive top 10 to crack. With all, you're facing some All-Americans and, like I said, some ranked teams. Good for them. And it's propelled them a little bit. Southern Utah men are now ranked 23rd in the nation, and Weber State women receive votes as well. So
Big
pretty
congrats.
awesome for them.
Yeah.
NAU competed at the Cowboy Jamboree. Men were second. They tied for second. Women were third. Corey Glines for the men was fifth overall. Melanie Townsend made her debut for the Lumberjacks, was fourth overall. And then Sacramento State competed at Stanford. Chloe Burlew, just continuing a great season. She was third overall at Stanford, and her teammate Amanda Garcia was sixth. So good things happening in cross country this weekend.
Good weekend for cross country.
Absolutely. All right, let's turn to what happened last week on the gridiron. It was widespread conference play last weekend. We had a couple non-conf sprinkled in, but some big results for Big Sky football last weekend. Let's roll through the conference scores first, then we'll just give you a couple of the non-confs at the end. North Dakota, 31-24 victory over UC Davis. UND got a big lead in the first half. UC Davis came back. I got to say that about this game, and a big congrats out to John Santiago winning Stats FCS National Freshman of the Week. North Dakota, I think this is a good football team. I'm interested to see as the weeks go on. They got a big one this weekend against Portland State. How did they put together a first and second half? Because we saw it against Drake in that second week of the season. Big first half lead, maybe take the foot off the gas a little bit in the second half and have to kind of eke their way out to a win. I'm interested to see what this team does. As far as UC Davis, I feel like we know a little bit more the identity of this team. Now it's just on them putting it together, and they'll have a big chance to put it together this week against the Montana Grizzlies. Montana also with a win, 23-14 over Northern Arizona. Tyrone Holmes, big force on the defensive side. He wins the Stats FCS Defensive Player of the Week award for FCS football in the United States. 4 sacks in that game, several tackles for losses. Montana, a 23-14 winner over Northern Arizona. Montana State, it was homecoming for the Bobcats, coming off a big loss. Not a big loss, but a tough loss, rather, to Eastern Washington. They respond well. They pick up a 45-28 victory over Cal Poly. Dakota Prukop is your Big Sky Root Sports Offensive Player of the Week. In Dakota, another monster game for him. Throws for 399 yards. Hit that big touchdown pass. There were so many in that game for him early on especially. But I got to say, Dakota Prukop, I was impressed, especially after a tough loss, and he played well in that game against Eastern Washington, but it was nice to see that him come out hot early on, ready to go, and they pretty much just dominated Cal Poly from the start.
Cal Poly's a good team. We've seen them play very well this year, so for him to come out against a really good team like Cal Poly, that's even more impressive.
Was a big win for sure for the Cats. They will play Northern Arizona this upcoming Saturday. We'll give you TV information a little bit later in the show. Some other conference games. Weber State, 38-17 victory over Northern Colorado. The Cats now 1-0 in the national polls. This has been, to me, one of the more encouraging stories of the season this far, excluding Portland State, which has also been great. But Weber State, it's been well documented the struggles they've had for the past couple of years. The Cats actually received votes in some of the national polls this week. They're 2-2 on the season. They host Southern Utah in a special Friday Night Lights edition. Big Sky football. We'll have TV information coming up on that a little bit later in the show. But Weber State, you like the direction they're moving in right now?
Absolutely. Playing very well all around. Defense is solid, and if they can pull off a win here against Southern Utah, it is at home. That's going to give them a nice little boost. 2-0 in the conference looks pretty good for the Wildcats.
Absolutely, it does. Some other scores from around the conference. Eastern Washington beats Sacramento State 28-20. Want to say congratulations out to Cooper Kupp in this game. Cooper Kupp, now the leading all-time touchdown scorer as a receiver in the Big Sky Conference. He has 47 career receiving touchdowns now. He's on pace to break a whole bunch of Big Sky records in the next few weeks. John Casper, my predecessor for football media relations, he and I were talking a little bit earlier. Cooper's got a chance to break the all-time receptions mark, receptions per game mark. I mean, it's just a plethora of records that he's got a chance to beat, and another big game for him against Sacramento. What was interesting about Eastern Washington, though, the Hornets had a 20-7 lead in that game, took Eastern putting up a big second-half fight to come back.
Absolutely, and defensively to be able to hold Sacramento State after they jump out to the big lead. Sometimes you kind of question Eastern Washington's defense, but for them to do that and hold Sacramento State, very impressive.
Big defensive second half for the Eagles. I liked what Jody Sears said yesterday on the Big Sky Coaches Show. Remember, you can catch that audio on bigskyconf.com under our podcast section. Said he was really encouraged with the way they played the first half. Again, it's just putting it together. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of teams in the Big Sky right now. That's what they're looking to do, putting it together. Total complete. I still think, like we said, North Dakota, they're looking to put it together. They're, 1-0 in the conference, 3-1 overall. But a lot of these teams looking to kind of put together a complete game, and then we'll have to judge them off of that. Some other scores from around the conference this past weekend. Southern Utah with a 55-7 victory over Division II Brevard College. And then Portland State with a 31-0 victory over Western Oregon. So there's some of the information on what happened around football around the conference. Also want to give a big shout out to North Dakota's punter, Mitch Rendell. He's leading the nation in punting right now. Mm-hmm. It's funny because North Dakota's punter's #1, North Dakota State's punter's #2. So it's a battle of North Dakota for the punters up there in ND. But Mitch with a big performance in that game definitely helped UND control field position, specifically as the game kept going on. And UC Davis started to get more and more confidence. He was a big weapon, and he's your Root Sports Special Team Player of the Week. All right, so we've talked about all of our sports, what's going on. At this point, do we want to get into basketball?
Absolutely. I always want to get into
Okay, well, I just want to make sure you were okay.
Yeah. You start things off because
I don't do anything unless you're okay.
Yeah, your women's poll came out yesterday. So
women's poll did come out yesterday, and no surprise, Montana Lady Grizz selected first in both the media and the coaches poll. So the way the polls work, just as an explanation out there to everybody, every head coach in the Big Sky Conference sends in a ballot of predicted order of finishes for each team in the conference, but they're not allowed to vote for their own team.
Correct.
Then for the media poll, which includes media and also sports information directors from around the conference, you slot every single team. So here's how it turned out. I'll give you the top 3 finishers in each poll, and then we can talk about them. So in the coaches poll, Montana, #1, the Lady Grizz with 10 first place votes. In the coaches poll also, North Dakota, they get 1 first place vote, and they are second, and then Sacramento State is third in the coaches poll. It's kind of convenient for me because that was the exact same top 3 order in the media poll. Montana getting 6 first place votes in the media poll, North Dakota getting 3, Sacramento State getting 2, and then Eastern Washington, the Eagles took 6th in the media poll, took 9th in the coaches poll, but they get 2 first place votes in that media poll. So fellas, Montana last year, we know they were able to overcome after Northern Colorado really got hot. Yeah. Bears had a 10-game winning streak in that conference session, were able to get into the title game, had a big halftime lead. Montana comes back, wins the Big Sky tournament, advances to the NCAA tournament. But it should be a really exciting, interesting venture for how this women's basketball season breaks down.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at Montana, they lost a lot of good players from last season. They were a senior-heavy team. Mm-hmm. Same with Northern Colorado, a very senior-laden squad. This is earlier than what we normally do for these kind of polls. So there were going to be questions about these teams anyway, even more so now that we haven't had any practices yet. But look out for North Dakota.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maya Lloyd returns for UND, one of the best players in the conference last year. I would venture to guess she's probably going to be preseason first team. That is a team that has a lot of returning talent, very fewer questions for UND as opposed to Montana. But Robin Selvig, there's a reason he's been so successful here. He gets the Lady Grizz playing very well.
That he does, and it should be an interesting season in Big Sky women's basketball. Jason briefly referenced those all-conference preseason teams. We'll both be releasing them. Mine will be on Sunday morning. So Sunday morning we'll release the women's preseason all-conference team as well as the preseason MVP. You'll be Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Afternoon-ish. And that brings it, the preseason polls talk as well to the men's preseason poll, which was released. We're taping this show on October 1st, literally hours ago.
Yeah.
It was released. So let's get to that breaking news.
Yeah, released today at noon. So if you look at the coaches poll, this was very interesting to me. Weber State and Montana were number 1 and number 2. Weber State was number 1 by 1 point, 114 points. Each vote, you get a point total.
Yep.
Both teams got 6 first place votes. In the media poll, though, it was Montana by quite a margin, 14 first place votes, followed by Weber State. In the coaches poll, no one else got any of the first place votes, but in the media poll, Eastern Washington, Northern Arizona, and Sacramento State each got a first place vote. So the coaches, I think it's going to be a little bit tighter of a race than the media, but Weber State returns a lot of good players from last year. Montana also returns. Martin, I apologize. Martin Brunning and Mario Dunn, first team all-conference players from last year. Weber State brings back Joel Bolenboy. I mean, this is going to be a
Jeremy
Sanglin. Eastern Washington brings back last year's freshman of the year. And they also bring back Vinky Joyce. There's a lot of good returning players. This is going to be a very exciting basketball season.
It will, and I think there's a few questions I know that jump out to me as far as basketball goes. Number one, last year Weber State was selected first in the polls, but they barely were able to qualify for the Big Sky tournament. Gave Montana all they could handle in that first round game, but they still fell. Was last year an aberration for the Wildcats. I'm interested to see that. And also Eastern. I'm interested to see you lose a player like Tyler Harvey. How do you respond? Brad, you've spent a lot of time around that program. How do you see Eastern Washington responding under Coach Hayford this season?
Well, you have to think that Hayford's going to build some depth under them. Bogdan Bliznuk, Vinky Joyce, very solid post players, very efficient shooters. You saw them play in the NCAA tournament game against Georgetown, and he had a deep bench in that game. They had some guys, some no names in that game, that played hard and put up some good stats. So.
And Eastern Washington knows how to win.
Yep.
They know how to win the tournament. They have that experience. Yep. Not that the other teams don't know how to win, but that experience goes a long way. Being there, going to Montana, winning in a hostile environment to go to the NCAA tournament, that is experience that can't be taught. This year, of course, everybody's going to Reno. It's going to be an exciting event, but that experience of being the champions goes a long way.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about Reno, Jason, because that's where we will be this weekend. You may even see a on location early week episode of the SkyCast, but we're all going to be in Reno this week, fellas. Big Sky Basketball Media Days. I know everybody knows about the great football event that we throw up in Park City in mid-July, but we're taking the show on the road across I-80 over to Reno, Nevada. I'm really excited about this. We're going to have a lot of fun stuff coming out of this. Obviously, we've got live streaming interviews all day or all morning, Monday long. I'll be doing live interviews like we did for football with men's and women's head coaches, so that should be a lot of fun. Always great to catch up with the coaches, catch up on the off season, see how things have gone. Some other exciting things that are going to come out of that, though. We already talked about the releases. We'll do the releases of the teams, the preseason all-conference teams there in Reno. But on top of that, we'll also have, we're planning on shooting a couple features about why you, as the fans, should go to Reno for this Big Sky basketball tournament, March 7th through the 12th, 2016. This is going to be a heck of a tournament, fellas.
Yeah, and we'll also be announcing when tickets go on sale. So I believe that release should be on Monday. Tickets go on sale next week. Let's just say that. I'm not firm on a date yet, but they do go on sale next week. It's going to be an exciting tournament. I know, having been to Reno, seeing the facility, you were literally, from where we stayed at the El Dorado and Silver Legacy hotels, you were literally a block away. You're a block away from the arena. You're a block away from downtown. You've got all the resorts right there as well. This event, and I've been to conference tournaments with the Atlantic 10. I've been with conference tournaments with the Ohio Valley Conference.
Yes.
This, facility-wise and location-wise, is better than the Atlantic 10 had when they were in Atlantic City. It's better than the OVC has in Nashville. Everything is right there. The facility is great. Tickets are not that expensive.
No, not at all.
Travel is easy for most of our schools and most of our fans. I am so excited that we finally have a conference tournament at a neutral site where everybody can come and celebrate Big Sky basketball.
Well, the thing I'm excited about, and I know you and I have talked about this, Brad, so it's kind of the same thing, is the tournament venue is great.
Yeah.
Great experience for fans, great sightlines, but we all know that there's more that goes into a tournament than just the arena. And the downtown experience at these hotels, you obviously have all of the nightlife that's associated with them. Great restaurants. You and I are going to peek inside a couple of those restaurants to get, I hope we get some free food out of it. That's my hope. But, you know, it should be things like that as well. We'll also show some different cultural things that you can do in Reno, some different shopping opportunities. And again, Reno, a fun city to be in regardless of whether you're there for basketball or not. But you add college basketball on top of that, you got yourself a fun week. Again, March 7th through the 12th, 2016, the Big Sky Texas Tournaments to Reno, Nevada. Tickets on sale next week. More information coming up on that on Monday. Okay, we're going to play a little game.
Sure.
We didn't talk about this before. We don't really talk about much with this show before. But one word, I want to get one word from each of us on your feelings about what you think the tournament will be like in Reno. And then give us the thing that you're most excited for. And it can be basketball, it can be the hotels, it can be, you know, whatever you want it to be. So, Brad, we'll start with you and then work our way down.
I'm gonna have to say unprecedented.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Just the fact that there's 24 teams there, and I think that's what I'm most
Yeah.
excited about. Everybody gets a chance. You might struggle early in the season, but you're there. Everybody gets there. Everybody gets a chance. Anybody could get hot at some point. And you know, there's underdogs, there's favorites, but it's gonna be a good battle. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a long week for us, but get to watch basketball.
Yeah.
It's not a bad,
It will
bad way to
culminate.
make a living.
Yeah, it will culminate in one team's one shining moment.
Yeah. I'm going to say intense, mainly because having talked to some of the fans,
Yeah.
because the Big Sky hasn't done a neutral site tournament like this in a long time. I think there's a little bit of trepidation from some fans that,
Yeah.
What does this mean for the regular season? This makes the regular season very important because you get a bye.
Yeah.
Four teams get a
The
bye.
top
Yeah.
4 teams get a bye. So that means that this entire season, it's not just about trying to host the tournament. It's about getting that bye and getting that extra day of rest and that extra day of scouting.
So you don't have to play on Monday
Exactly.
or Tuesday. You play Wednesday
Yeah.
or Thursday.
It's
Yeah,
so
so-
every game during the regular season is going to be just as important as before. And that's what I'm most excited about. Maybe not just the tournament, but the entire season, looking at the standings, seeing the scenarios, who has to beat who to get those top 4 seeds and earn those buys. That is what I'm most excited about this season.
My one word is going to be opportunity.
Absolutely.
I think it's, I think this is really a tremendous opportunity for us to showcase our